Welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We are now fully in the Talk of the Town segment. We just had a wonderful guest in our first hour, Rachel Priest, who talked about mental health awareness. If you're watching this on North Hempstead TV, you can check the schedule to see that. It's really just such an important topic. As you know, we talk about this all the time in different ways, and it's just to bring awareness to that and to know the resources. It's just, I'm just always blown away by and I've had them on the show before. We've had them at Project Independence programs before, and I just learned something new every time. That turquoise house, I didn't know. I've seen it. I didn't know like the logistics of it. So I'm just glad that we were able to touch the surface on these programs. And I'm sure that's just the tip of the iceberg of everything that they really do provide.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great resource for people to be aware of. If not for yourselves, many times it's not. It could be for family or friends or whatever.
Yeah, I love that they have the support group for the parents of someone that, is struggling with mental health things, because I just think, listen, we've seen that with different substance abuse. I mean, they have Al-Anon programs for the family, and it's just important because as much as it's affecting the individual, it really affects the entire family unit, as we all know. So it's definitely great. So
I look back in my life, people didn't talk about mental health.
Right.
But I look back and I would say I was in my teens. And there was two books I read, actually. This was pre-internet, obviously. There was a book called The Power of Positive Thinking and How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And they were written by Norman Vincent Peale and Dale Carnegie. Norman Vincent Peale was a minister at a church, Marble Collegiate, I think, something or other, on Fifth Avenue. And Dale Carnegie ran all kinds of educational stuff for sales, for business, for a lot of things, really. And both of those books are still relevant. And that was, I hate to say, like 65, 70 years ago.
Do you remember, Otto, like what made you get those books?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I must have had something in my mind that made me think I really need to try to do something, about whatever. Why would I read those books? I have no idea. If I think about it, maybe I had a mental health problem and I didn't know about it.
Yeah, you just could have been, you had a feeling, and that you were,
I really don't know.
You were ahead of your time,
Yeah, I just felt like maybe I was worrying about stuff that I shouldn't be worrying about or whatever. That, and that was one thing. And another one, I took a test back then and it indicated I was a procrastinator. All right. So that was a very important thing to learn because I am far from a procrastinator.
I was going to say, that's
well, no, but the fact that I became conscious of it, like I lived a 3-minute walk from my high school. All right. But I was always late.
Yeah.
Why was I always late? I diddled around. I procrastinated, so I learned early on that I had these little issues, if you will. And for some reason, I figured it out.
No, but Otto, it goes back to what you always say, and you mentioned this earlier too, it's work, right? So these things are just something you actively have to work at. And I think that that's so important to mention is like, listen, some days everyone's going to have their ups and their downs and their good days and their bad days, and I think it's just, but to work at these things and trying to what we always say on the show, no, it's not a blanket thing. Not one thing works for everyone, but I do think, you find the little thing, whatever it might be, that gives you purpose or makes you feel good, or whatever it is, to really like lean into doing those things, because listen,
well, I
that's
think
all
the other thing is that I do not believe that if people are honest, that there's a family around that doesn't have some of these problems.
I'd be shocked if you could find them for me. I'd love
but some
to see.
people don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
All right?
No, of course.
And then there are other people who've really been lucky and they haven't had the problem.
Yeah.
That's fine if you happen to fall into that camp. I believe a lot of people do have problems, but they don't let on and they don't talk about it. And
No, and that, that's such a great point too, Otto, because listen, even within your own family itself, some people could be, willing to talk. I always like laugh because, my mom's side of the family, we're so verbal, so we're always telling, we tell too much half the time, and then, my dad's side is, was never as much, verbal with things. So even like with the own family unit, you can navigating those things are just different. But I'll tell you what, getting it out always feels better at the end of the day, as difficult as it could be, and it's certainly not easy, and it could have different reactions and stuff, but I do think getting that out and releasing it is such a huge thing to do. So
yeah, I mean, and
firm
problems
believer.
are relative, all right. I think I know you have, I
Mhm.
have. We've all been through things in families and whatnot that are very serious. They're not just like you rip your dress or
Right.
whatever. These are serious
Yeah.
issues, where long term could be not a good
Hmm.
result. Uh, and that nobody's saying that this is where you jump up and down and say everything is hunky dory. But what you have to try to do is keep that within some reasonable uh, position in your
Yeah.
head. Try to do what you can about it. But if you can't do anything, you just have to try to say, okay, that's what it is right
Yeah,
now.
and get help for it, like I think
Yeah.
it's just because sometimes it is, you can't do it on your own or your own little techniques, so it is important to reach out to someone because everyone's got their own, scale of what
Yeah.
might
And
be
don't
going
project out too far,
on. I mean, are
Yeah.
you speaking directly to me, Otto?
No, I'm talking to myself too, believe me. All right.
I mean, that is certainly
Take one
one
day
of
at a time
that is,
and
and it's
and
it's it's as simple as that, and obviously, people laugh about like little cliches, but that concrete statement is really the basis of everything you can do, because you have to really just take it one day at a time, Obviously, everyone's got their own interpersonal family stuff going on, and then the world as a whole. I mean, you could really drive yourself crazy if you just start thinking about everything, but or you could be like my family who we choose to use like humor to get through like all
but I
situations.
think
So
humor is good.
that's what I was. It goes a long way, My mom was saying that she's like, as long as I keep my sense of humor, we'll like all get through this, and that's how we've always dealt with anything that kind of came our way, over the
See, not
years.
everybody can do that,
No, certainly not.
which
I think sometimes people look at my family and they're like, all right, whatever works for them.
yeah, I mean, that's part of trying to take it a little lighter.
Yeah, and I just, please, we could talk about this all day long because it is something I'm quite passionate about. But just remember there's support out there and to always just make that first call, even if you don't know what you need, but you just need some help or want to find out about what services are out there. I want to remind people next week we have on Dr. Shah, who is from the assistant professor, the Department of Dermatology at the Zucker School for Medicine at Hofstra and Northwell Health. She is going to be doing skin health for seniors, which is a request of Mr. Otto had
Mm.
asked for this topic because it's certainly something we all think about as much as we love to be outside and get that good vitamin D. Obviously, we need to do it safely. And kind of what do you do if you have there's we'll cover the whole gamut of things. So that is
Well,
next week.
and most seniors did not have this knowledge back when.
Yeah, I mean, so many
So,
people. Listen, I'm not a senior, and I think about my younger self, and I see younger people now. Obviously, there's a little more awareness on things, but you're young, and you're like, oh, I'll do that when I'm older. I'll be more proactive. You just kind of go outside and just be out there all day long, and then end up with a terrible burn, and
yeah,
don't
like
realize the effects.
blisters,
You know, yeah. I mean,
not
listen,
good.
I can vividly remember times as a child that I had insane sunburns. Um,
Yeah,
it's terrible. But
many, many.
yeah, I think that's just part of the growing up thing. But we're
I was
just
like a pig on a spit. It was that bad.
I like that. But I also want to just remind people if you miss any of our live shows, you can obviously watch us on North Hempstead TV, or you can check out our YouTube videos at WCWP Studios YouTube page, and also on the Project Independence website. There's really a lot of great information. I find myself a lot of times just going back and like looking, for a particular topic, because it really is such good information. And if you also have any topics that you want to hear, you could always call 311 to get connected to me, and I'd be happy to get the topic going for you.
I know there's a lot to tell about the town, but I got
Yes.
two scam things that have come up.
You took the words out of my mouth, Otto. That's what I was
Okay.
going to ask you about.
Well, one of them is the new AI thing
Mm-hmm.
with voice cloning. Um, it's real. I know somebody now in the family who got taken for $15,000. Um, all right, and what happened was the voice of a grandson was cloned with this artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that the grandson was in Tennessee on a trip of some kind. So all of a sudden, a phone call comes in to grandma from this voice that sounds like and was a grandson's, saying he's in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm the grandson. I'm the voice. It's his voice. All right. And I need $15,000. Send it, blah, blah. I don't know how they did that part. But the point being, when you now answer the telephone nowadays, you have to be very, very conscious of unknown phone numbers. And if you're the first one to answer, they only need 3 seconds of your voice, and they can clone your voice.
Oh my
And
God.
now they can make your voice a live situation and record whatever they want. I don't know what they use to do it, but they do it. So that's a serious problem. And, one, I just started something with my family where if you want to do something like that, pick a word. Project Independence is the code, the family code. All right. So if I get a phone call, even if it sounds like my grandson, but it's something like this, I'll say, well, what's the word?
Yeah. I
And if
think
they
that
don't
is
know
such,
if they
you
don't
have,
know the word is
yep.
Project Independence, then it's not my grandson.
Yeah.
So you've got to
I think that's
establish.
such a good tip, Otto, and it's something that all of us, can do easily, and I really think that is important, because it is something that's coming up more. You see it like, oh, and you're like, oh, I mean, when I first saw AI kind of stuff, it was on like social media, and it was like, kind of fun, like, oh, I'm impersonating a singer, like all these like things that on the surface look, oh my God, how great is this like robotic kind of technology, but then it's the dangers of it, and it's increasing, and it's coming with like full force, these kind of
It's
things.
only going to get
Yeah, and we
worse.
actually are going to have in June, I scheduled a speaker from Family and Children's Association we've had on the show before, who's did a lot. She's very knowledgeable about scams, and I asked her if she would come on to also touch upon, these AI scams. So she'll be on in June to do that, because I think it is something, unfortunately with these scams. I mean, we've been saying this since our show began, you know, you can't stop the scammer, because there are these different things. I mean, look at all this evolution, Otto, for over the years of all these different, versions, because they're, because people get onto one, so then they try something else. It's this like ongoing cycle.
Well,
And
the second one is nowhere near as harsh as that
Mhm,
one, right?
mhm.
But laboratories and different organizations have sent free COVID tests in boxes, big bunch of kits. And I talked to somebody yesterday who had it 3 times. They got shipments of free COVID tests, but they ended up looking at their Medicare account, and Medicare was charged for every one of those shipments. So basically, they were stealing from Medicare. You think you're getting free COVID tests, which you
Oh my
don't
God.
need, and they're shipping them out to all over the country to people and charging Medicare for these kits, tests, the free COVID tests. That probably will dwindle, but it was this one
Well, you're
person
right. I mean,
had
because
three
listen,
shipments.
that's how scams get, get their momentum. They try and find the hot kind of topic, if you will, or whatever it
Well,
might be.
they're basically ripping off Medicare,
Yeah,
and which is us.
right.
You you know, God
But
knows how
Otto, I'm
many.
so glad, because I love like Otto will send me anytime he sees something or hears something about these scams, and then I'm able to obviously we talk about it here, But then just like spread the word, because unfortunately that's all we really can do at this point, and with this AI thing, that's a real scary concern because it's so advanced. I mean, it just sounds, even when I think about it, it just sounds so futuristic to me, like that this could even be a thing. I don't know why I'm all that surprised, but it just seems still. And here's a senior who, is older, and home and isolated, and to, it's a very easy target for a lot of these people. And I just think, Otto, I love that suggestion that you gave about having that special code word with your family, because it could do, I mean, $15,000, that is just absolutely heartbreaking. So I really just encourage people that if there is a scam, that if you have been scammed yourself, like, don't be afraid. That's a lot of the problem, is people don't want to verbalize it because they feel they were duped, or they're stupid, or and they're embarrassed, whatever it might be. Is it's just so important to get the word out there and to report it. I mean, you can certainly call us, but there's so many organizations out there, from like the Attorney General. I mean, there's just like the DAs are, there's a whole bunch of different scam hotline numbers. But certainly you can give us a call and we could pass that along, because it's just
I mean, as smart as you think you might be, you can easily get hit.
Absolutely. And that's what I want to go. You got to take that like stigma away from people, like thinking that, somehow they failed. It's very advanced. I mean, listen, especially if we're talking this AI stuff, it sounds like your grandchild, like, so how are you supposed to, why would you think otherwise? Your brain, you have to almost have switch and say, okay, well, like, something sounds, off or whatnot. So it's
I had another one personal.
Mhm.
Just a couple of days ago. I get a phone call, and I usually don't pick up the phone. Yet I did.
Right.
My cell phone. All right. I pick it up. It looked like kind of semi-legitimate. So I pick it up, and they tell me it's my bank. I won't use the name of the bank. And it's a big bank. It's not a little small bank. And it said, talking some hardly I could understand. Your checking account 123 ends in 123, right? He's asking me. Oh, I said, no. He says, no. He says, you have a big problem with your account ending in 123. That is your account, right? 123.
Oh my
So all I
God.
have to do, and it is what the numbers they gave
Yeah.
me were legitimate for my last digits of my account number.
Oh, wow.
So obviously they knew that part, and they saw
Yeah.
X's somewhere else. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm in there, and I could easily have said, "Oh yeah, that's mine," and then they're going to tell me, "Now let's get the rest. Give me all the numbers, and
Oh gosh.
we'll make sure that your account you can access it on the internet." So I
Wow. Well,
access my account on the internet while he's talking to me, and I have no
and you saw.
problem.
And that's important. Well, we have to take a quick break. We'll be back with Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast, and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to wcwp.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. You know, those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
And welcome back to Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We are in our second to last segment, Otto. So we are just flying through the show with just such great information. And prior to the break, we were talking a lot about kind of new scams and just what to do. Otto, you had some tips for us, didn't you?
Well, Dan during the break told us, I know Dan likes to be incognito, but he does have some very good ideas. Dan mentioned that if any receipt or paperwork that you have that has XXX and then it has your 123 of your checking account or your Medicare number or your last digits of your Social Security number, whatever, throw it in a shredder box and shred it.
Yeah.
Don't, just because the lot of it's X'd out people use that
Of
to
course.
talk to people because now they have one piece of the puzzle
Mhm.
and they will try to weasel the other part out of people somehow. And once they do, even your Medicare number can be used to do what
Mhm.
I said earlier about shipping free COVID tests. You know, maybe not stealing from you, but they're stealing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important just for so many things. You have the safety and like to, you get that receipt and then, rip that receipt up or shred it or whatever it might be. I mean, like, and think about documents. I was just having a conversation. I was with a bunch of my friends and somehow it came up. We were saying like, you go to the doctor and you have to fill out endless paperwork, all the time, and you just so okay, oh, social security number, you just write your social security number, here's this paper, it goes over here, it goes, and like it's just your social security number traveling around, a hard copy document on an office. I
What
mean, you think
about
about
what
that.
credit card that you use and it says, okay, just give me the CSV, I
Yes.
think it's called.
Mhm.
Give me that number. How many thousand people have I given that number to?
Of
What's so
course.
secretive about that
I
number?
know. I
You
know.
know, nothing.
No, I totally, and it's hard because I'm also like I love convenience of things, so you'll like auto save your credit
Oh
card,
yeah, I'm
or
there. I'm doing
I mean,
all
it's
of it.
just listen, I think we've all been guilty, or whatever I'm going to, and that credit card is up there, But what I something, and I'll always remember our dear friend John Ryan, who would do a lot of these project safe presentations for Project Independence, and it was a lot about scam awareness and different things to protect your finances or whatnot. And I always sticks with me is that with the ATM, when you go over there to cover your hand when you're putting in your passcode, and to when you're you know it's very difficult. You should have like a card that has a small, whether it's a credit card or something with a very small balance, and use that instead of using, something that has, all your life savings, attached to this card. I mean, luckily, we're, there are a lot of programs that I know my own bank has and different credit card companies where, they'll have security kind of checks and alerts and stuff. And I think that's great that those things are there. But, a lot of times things, get missed, or, the struggle to get the money back can take forever. So it's just to do like little things to, limit your risk. Obviously, we can't control everything. But speaking of with the social security numbers, like there's times that I just won't even put it on the form. I'm just not comfortable of like being in a random thing and just writing my full social security number on this. So,
Well, and did anybody say anything to
no,
you?
nobody said
So
anything.
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Because if they really need it, they could ask for it, right? So I was just like, I'm
Exactly.
leaving this blank. I'm just leaving this blank. I mean, it's
Otherwise,
bad
somebody
enough.
just put that thing on there. It's already in your record.
That's what I said. I said, how
You
many
know?
times, do I have to fill out the same form over and over again? But, this is the bureaucracy system we're in. But so many town things going on. Unfortunately, if you were listening to the show live, which it is May 19th, May 20th, tomorrow, was supposed to be the Asian American Festival. It is postponed due to the weather. Unfortunately, there was so much work. I know community service had been working very, very hard on this, but it's postponed. So hopefully we don't have a date yet. It will be revisited, but Mother Nature, you can't control it. You can't control it. So just want to remind people once again, that's the Asian American Festival that was supposed to be May 20th is now postponed. So just please note that. But Memorial Day commemoration and fireworks is Saturday, May 27th, and that's over at North Hempstead Beach Park. And the program begins around 6:30 p.m. There's going to be fireworks, obviously, and then musical entertainment. And the event is has free parking for veterans and active duty military. You're able to get a parking pass if you call 311. I know our office at Clinton G. Martin Park, we have these free parking passes for veterans available as well. So I just think that's really, really great.
Hit me with that one again. Free parking
Yeah,
passes
so
for
it's
veterans?
these parking passes we have that are for veterans for free parking.
Yeah, I'm
So
a veteran. I never got one. What I have to do?
see, Otto, you just got a call. You can come visit me at Clinton G. Martin Park.
And then you have a parking pass.
Yep, yes. So they have
It's like
parking.
$25, I think.
See? So there you go. So it's really and that's
Well,
for
that's good to
veterans.
know.
See, Otto, you learned something
I
new.
learned something.
There you go. I'm glad. The event is free. Vehicles, though, are charged a $10 parking fee, which is cash only. So that's obviously if you're not a veteran and for parking, it's $10.
Hmm.
And also there's going to be a shuttle bus available if obviously the parking lot gets filled. We always say it's such a great event, but it does fill up quick. So if you are interested in going, get there on the earlier end because it does get a little crazy.
Now, I looked at the shuttle bus schedule and many
That's for Fun Day
stops.
Monday.
Yeah, for Fun Day Monday.
Yeah, so the Fun Day Monday bus pickup schedule, what Otto is referring to. So Fun Day Monday is kicking off on July 10th. That's over at North Hempstead Beach Park. It's so great. And we'll go over the line of that. But there's also a bus pickup schedule that has a bunch of different locations throughout the town. So each region has a couple of different spots where this bus pickup situation is. But you would call 311 and then you can get the full any information you need about that. But Fun Day Monday kicks off July 10th with Stan and Edie as a musical guest. And then they're having Vincent Rhodes Productions will be there the following week. The health fair is July 24th. July 31st are the Beatleites, which is a Beatles tribute band. August 7th is Dance Aloha and an Elvis tribute. August 14th, which is a new one this year, I believe, which I love. It's the Rat Pack tribute. And that's Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis. And August 21st is my personal favorite, which is Hometown USA. It's a salute to the troops and has a vintage car show and some performances. There's also pickleball and line dancing and Tai Chi. There's so many different things going on at Fun Day Monday. And obviously, if it's Monday has rain, it's the Thursday of that week is the rain date for that program. So if you have any more questions about that, just give it 311 a buzz about
Have
that.
you played pickleball yet?
I have not played pickleball, but you know what, Otto? That might be my goal this summer.
Play pickleball.
I might try. Have you tried it yet?
I have not. I would like to try it.
We might have to try it together. We'll have to do a WCWP pickleball game.
I mean, I've watched pickleball.
I've watched it too, and I love because at my office at Clingy Martin Park, when I'm driving home, you pass the courts, and they're always packed with people playing pickleball. So it's quite the sport, and I'm very intrigued. We'll have to check it out. Maybe we'll check it out. We'll meet up at Fun Day Monday, Otto, and we'll
have a pickleball.
We'll have a full pickleball tutorial over there.
We'll get Dan there.
That's right. I like that. I also want to remind people the early bird registration for the pools, which is Manor Haven Beach Park and Clingy Martin Park. That is kicking off. You must be a resident of the New Hyde Park Special Park District for Clingy Martin Park. I just want to remind people. But there's also parks including Tully Park, Whitney Pond Park, Bunky Reed Park. So there's a whole schedule of different rates and fees and times that you can do all these things. And it's just crazy to me that we're promoting summer like stuff because I don't know where this happened. I just remember like a couple of days ago, it seemed like it was winter was wrapping up, and now we're fully geared for summer. So definitely check that out. We have some great programs also coming up within Project Independence. The This Life of Mine program that we have, which is a journaling program, started off at the Westbury Library, and now we are also bringing it to the Port Washington Library. And that kicks off on June 1st. It's going to be on Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. So I really encourage you all to do that. You get a lovely little journal keepsake, and it's just a very therapeutic. So definitely do that. And just you have to express your memories. We're all about it. And it's the peer support that we had mentioned earlier, Otto.
Well, it's a nice thing to leave for your family.
It really is. It's and I know you're so good, Otto, at kind of recording things.
I think I have too much actually. I'm trying to figure out how to put it down. I'm thinking it's going to be too long. I got to figure out how to highlight it more.
That's all right. You can have the extended version, and if people opt in for the abridged version, they can do that as well. I'll go.
Yeah, well, when my kids get older and retired and whatnot, they'll have more time. But I think when you're running around and you're in the rat race, it's there, but it's not really there.
Yeah,
it's low on your list.
Absolutely. I get
to
it.
know your family history.
But it's so important, and it's really something that you won't regret, So it's I think about that often, and I've said it here too, like when I would sit with my grandpa and go over all, because he was a photographer, all of his, photos, and he would discuss about them. It was, not always easy at the time because my grandpa wasn't the easiest, but there was a lot of wonderful memories and things that, like, I look back now and I'm so glad that I took that time to do those things, to have those things electronically,
I
done.
saw on Facebook that was just recent.
Oh yeah, it was the anniversary of my grandfather passing yesterday, and these little memories pop up. But it does make you remember these things, and I'm so glad that we did spend that time together to do that, because it's something that now, I have for my whole family, and it's just it's just
Yeah,
sometimes,
I
like, the
think,
best things take a little time.
well, I think most people, when they look back, like in my case, even, I look back and I say, wow, there's so many questions I should have asked my father, my mother, my uncle, whoever, all
Yeah,
the people,
I know.
that I would really now love to sit down with and ask them a lot of questions. So one of my missions is to try to answer questions
So
that
great.
somebody might ask in the future. And it's difficult because I don't know enough about the previous generations. I only know my world.
Mhm.
I know, yeah, my father and mother, but beyond that, I don't know much about them really, very little. Um, and I would have asked my father and mother more about them,
Yeah.
you know.
No, and that just goes back to my point. It's like, you regret not having that information. What you're not going to regret is taking all the time and effort to end up having that information, because that goes a long way. Because I think we've all been there. I mean, there's like photographs that you look at and you're like, oh God, I should have found out like who every person was in this photograph, because you don't have someone to ask all the time. So it's just a little reminder, and you
Yeah,
could do a
otherwise,
little.
the picture ends up on the wall of a bar somewhere as
Mhm.
part of
Right.
the ambiance of the bar.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. So it's certainly important. And like, and I always forget what it's called, but it's some kind of book thing and company that does, and you get like a question prompt every day. But this is something you could certainly do on yourself. I mean, you could look it up online. I'm sure there's a whole host of different questions, and even to just answer that little question, one question a day. I mean, anybody can do that. And then by the end of that, you have, a full book of things. So
Well, we had
it's
people on the show, I think, of Legacy or
yes. Hmm.
yeah, where
Yeah.
they actually video somebody, which is not a
Hmm.
bad idea, actually,
Hmm.
um, with those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's
Years ago in my earlier years, when you did a movie, there was no sound.
right.
They had a bunch of people going like this, and and they weren't talking.
I love it. But yes, so that's just one of our programs. Please check that out. Of course, we have our different support groups are still meeting. Our Blankets of Love group is on Tuesdays at Glen G. Martin Park. We have our bridge class that meets at the Yes We Can Community Center on Wednesdays from 12 to 2, and that group is really growing, and they're all beginner. You don't have to be super experienced to join this. We also have our social discussion group that's still virtual if you'd like that option. That meets on Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. We have our Golden Hearts Bingo and Blood Pressure Screenings group that's over at Roslyn Community Center on Thursdays. Our men's group that meets at the Hillside Library. They also have a virtual option, which is cool. So they meet in person, but also virtual. And I have to say, it's such a great group. I had the pleasure of having to kind of do the technical Zoom side of things because the social worker was having some problems. So I just stayed on to make sure that there was no glitches, because there was a good amount of people who were still virtual, and also, to communicate with the people in person. So it was such an amazing group. And I have to say this about our Project Independence, members and the programs, because everyone should take a little look at these things, because everyone had such different views, right? I mean, it really went from one end to the extreme to the other end. But they just communicated, and it was such a beautiful thing to watch because we don't get to see it, often. And no one was arguing, and these were very hot and heated kind of topics, as we all could imagine, of what we see, in current events now. But they just heard each other out, and nobody got mad at one another. It was just like a shocking thing to see because we never really see that nowadays. So I have to just give a shout out to Krista, who is the facilitator, our social worker of that group, and she does a great job. And
that's an interesting approach. You actually talk and listen to the other person.
Honestly, it sounds I was like shocked because when I would hear some of these conversations, I was like, oh boy, like because immediately like this, and it never even came close to those kind of points. And it was such a lovely thing. And I was like, this should be a model for communication, amongst people with varying opinions.
Which group?
That was the men's group. It was the men's group.
The political group, maybe, if they
It's current events. It's just, they just talk about all things current events, So it was really a lovely thing to watch. So that happened this week. So I just was very impressed with that.
I'm happy this is not a political show.
Yeah, absolutely. And our St. Francis cardiac screening van will be making its rounds all throughout the town. And we will have our next joint advisory committee meeting is June 14th. And we're going to have a speaker from Alzheimer's and Dementia Center who will be talking about that, because that's for June, and just awareness about that as well. We have a bunch of other stuff that are coping with love group. Oh my God, we're going to take a short break. My God, we're just flying by. We will be back with Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
And welcome back to Project Independence and You Community Talk Radio here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. We are in the last segment, Otto. I just can't believe today, like, really just was like a whirlwind fly, and it was just it was nice to be able to catch up with you. I was looking forward to it. I feel like it's been too long since we've, spread all the great information.
Final day of bowling today.
The final day of bowling. Oh boy. Day.
Any bowlers out there? We always need bowlers. It's the senior bowling league. You do not have to be a good bowler. We have people who average from 85 to 195. And
now are those ages or bowling score? No.
Ages are probably average 83. Mm-hmm. We have from 65 to 96, I think. So it's a pretty good spread.
No, is it like a formal bowling thing, or is it something that you guys just do on your own?
And it's a league. We have teams. You get handicaps. So even the person with an 85, there's 3 people or 4 people on a team. And it's not rigid by any means. Mm-hmm. There's no money involved. It costs $12 a week to bowl 3 games.
And which bowling alley does this meet at?
This is Bolero in Mineola, which used to be Sheridan. And it's 1 o'clock on a Friday. Usually you'd be finished by 3:30. It's camaraderie. We all have a little competitive streak in us. You want to do well. All right. But even a person with an 85 average is on the first place team right now. So, it's not.
Now, if someone's interested in this, where could they get information about it? Is there like a main number, or?
They could call Bolero.
Okay, so it's through Bolero.
In Mineola.
Okay.
And tell them you're interested. The league is called the Hopefuls.
Love it. So good.
We're very hopeful, right?
I love
it. Over the years, we've had people of, there's one guy in particular. He was 95, and he was still driving a plow part-time in Kennedy Airport when the snow came about. And he was hiring other people who were a little younger, like 80, to plow snow in Kennedy Airport. He's
Well,
not
I'm gonna have to tell
he's
my
now in
husband about that one.
Florida
That's a great one.
living with his daughter, but
Now, would
we
you have
love
a team name, Otto, with your bowling league? Do you guys
no, we
have
just have numbers.
just numbers?
Yeah, numbers. Yeah.
Gotcha. I love it.
And it's not, it's not a series league. If you
Yeah.
show up, you show up. If you don't show up, you don't show up.
I like that.
If you
There's
have,
no
I mean,
pressure.
as long as you let people know you're not going to be there, then they would put in bowling, in league bowling, they put in what's called a blind. So it
Mhm.
would be your average minus 5 pins
Mhm.
for that game, for those 3 games.
Wow, I love
And
it.
it's just, it's
No, I think it's great. I think it's really just a nice thing. And you said listen, there's so many benefits, of course it's doing something active and fun, and then the camaraderie of it. And you've been doing this for so long. How many years have you been with the
I've been doing it since I retired, which is now 20 years.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So I was one of the young ones when I started, but I'm creeping into the other category.
You're always the young one. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Listen, Dan can
Well,
speak
as I
for it too.
always use the word older, I'm
We
getting
all want to
older.
be Otto at the end of the
I'm
day.
old.
That's just the overall message. But I love that, and there's so much fun stuff. So you'd like to join that, and it's not an expensive thing, and it's local. So I
Well,
encourage.
$12 for bowling 3 games is like,
Yeah, it's great.
you
That's
can,
really great.
nowadays you can pay $12 to bowl 1 game.
Yeah, of
They're not
course.
bowling alleys anymore. They're entertainment
I
centers.
know.
But when we bowl, we don't have all the lights and the
Right.
TVs playing and everything else.
All the
No music,
distractions.
no music.
I love it. So
When
great.
the kids are bowling on the other end, they got purple lights and pink lights flashing and TVs and 3 songs going on at the same
Oh,
time.
I know. Listen, that's usually I'm the last time. I mean, I haven't been bowling in ages, but we were always like at Rock and Bowl, so it would be, the
Well,
later.
that's the same thing now. Everything is rock and
Yeah.
bowl. No, really. Yeah.
But
But what we do is really bowl. This is real bowling.
that's right. I like that.
Yeah.
You get
I
to the
mean, even though
nitty
we're
gritty
not
of
good,
things.
but it's real bowling.
Well, you know what I also was thinking that had popped up, because everyone knows I love a good pop culture and television shows. And Otto, I don't know if you saw, but the Bachelor franchise is coming out with a senior version,
Uh,
and it's called like the Golden thing. And I just think it's so lovely. And I sent it around at work. I said, I think we have a new Project Independence program, but it's The Bachelor, but it's an older, adults, like, finding love, which I thought was a nice little thing. So I think The Bachelor is trying to hop on our Project Independence train of things. So I will
well,
certainly.
I believe that the need for companionship, let's say,
Absolutely.
uh, exists. All right,
Absolutely.
and that could be a female friend, a man friend, or
Mhm.
whatever. Somebody you can just do things with, share things with.
Absolutely.
You know,
The social component of things, and I mean, I'm constantly seeing this even more so and talking about it to people all the time. It's has such impacts, so when someone is isolated, I mean, the effects of that on their health, both mental and physical, is really intensive, especially if they're dealing with, I mean, it's just terrible. So to really, get involved, as you mentioned, with these bowling things, and there's so many other kind of ways to do that. I mean, certainly through Project Independence, we have a whole host of kind of programs and groups, and it really can benefit your quality of life and your health to such important heights. So it's
my opinion, anyhow, is that you can even socialize through email or text
Mhm,
messages or whatever.
mhm,
There's a social media. There is an interaction. It
mhm.
may not be what you think it ought to
Right.
be, but there is some exchange of thinking and letting people know you're here. They let you know they're here,
Mhm.
you know. So it's not a bad thing to learn how to do those things if you
No,
don't
it's
know.
not, because and I get it. Obviously, it's not as the same as the real thing, but it does. If that is your situation or whatever it might be, to embrace those things. and to get connected. And I think all of us, picked that up during, lockdown and COVID, when our only medium that we could talk to people was, a virtual situation.
Yeah, I
So.
mean, do text messages with your grandchildren,
Mhm.
you know,
I
about
noticed
what?
too, what I do love about it, it's like the being able to like share the information, because that's just what I think is just so nice. Because especially I think about that for, a senior's home, you get a picture of, the grandbaby or, your whatever it might be. It's just you to send that. And I remember, my grandpa, when I would show him, the iPhone, and listen, my grandpa was a photographer, so he was like fascinated by the iPhone and like what you can do. And that was even before it got even, crazier now, with like all these filters. And I mean, everyone could be a professional, photographer, we'll put in quotes, from on their iPhone. And but it was I would sit there when I would visit him and I would show him, if I went out to dinner or if I went to some new location, and that was such a big thing for us to like communicate through pictures and showing, these things. So that's what's so nice about if you do have a social media thing or a texting capability, because that's what I mean. Listen, that's what I use my social media for. I don't use it for the negativity and whatnot and the arguing. I like to, share and distribute things that are happy, right? And fun
Yeah,
things.
I mean, the flip side of that is some people say, oh, geez, why do I have to know everything they do?
Yeah, of course. But
Well,
listen, to
if
each
that's
his
how you
own.
feel, fine.
Yeah,
But
to each his own.
it's not,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's nice to know, okay, your granddaughter went to Montauk Point.
Right.
You know, that's nice. Now you
And
got
listen,
something.
for my own self, I love seeing people's things because if they're at like a fun restaurant or somewhere that looks pretty, I mark it down. I said, that's where I want to go.
You
So
know
it's like a
how many
great,
people in my life go back on my train ride that I
Mhm.
would have stayed in touch with
Right.
for years if the
Mhm.
social media ability existed. But
Yeah.
what happens is if you count on just a phone call or whatever, a letter, you know,
Hmm.
that's going to fade away.
I know.
Whereas with the social media part of it, you can maintain
Hmm.
contact and know a little bit about the person's life,
Yeah,
what's going on.
absolutely. Yeah,
You
right. You
know?
get like a glimpse, into things,
Yeah.
which is certainly important. And I love that, Odd, that you said that because it is, a lot of people will throw in the towel, like, oh, I don't, but it really could, make or break, your, mental health in things.
It's
So,
all a personal choice.
of course, it's just
You
another
know?
option that's out there, right? We say there's a
Yeah,
lot of different tools in the toolbox, and what you
exactly.
choose to,
You,
utilize that works for you is, fabulous. So we're all just
I
trying to
think
find the right fit.
one of the things about aging is um, the ability to adapt to change,
Hmm.
um, whatever it may be, because the trite phrase, the only thing constant is change,
Hmm.
is super
Yep.
true. All
Yep.
right. Nothing stays the same.
Hmm.
So you might as well figure that out and figure out how to adapt to the change. Don't
Yep.
try to go back to what it was because it's not going to happen.
Yep. See,
It's just,
that's just the perfect words of wisdom. That's our golden nugget from Otto, because that is so true. We all, I think, when you say the Otto can think of people in our heads who, resist, and listen, change isn't easy. Of course, it's difficult. Some people are better at it than others, but, I even think, I talk as with my mom often, comedians who have been around, who have like spanned, generations upon generations, it's because they like adapt to what's going on, and they'll make jokes about, things, but like, they to have that kind of way and then your appeal and your audience, keeps growing and stuff. I mean, like, look at Joan Rivers. She was such a fierce, like little spunky woman who really, I know older people that, loved her and then younger people, so it's like, that's just an example of someone that, stayed kind of current and attached to things. And I think it is important to do that. And I even know my own family and people that I talk to, it's people that can relate to, well, different things, which is, listen, we would hope like young people would, also be that way, but that's not always the case. You're not as reflective at those ages. But it's definitely, I think that's a great little tidbit of knowledge from you, Otto.
the same story, though. I think you have to work at that also.
Mhm. It's
You
just
know?
life is just so much work,
It's worth it.
It is worth it. I laugh because it's just, you're constantly in a state of managing, right? Because that's the word we like to use here. You're
Well, you're managing,
managing
change.
everything, and I
Yeah.
laughed because I actually thought of you the other day, because my phone, there's just so many pictures and, text messages. And like, before you know it, it just builds up and builds up and builds up. And you're like, oh my God, I have just so much stuff. You feel cluttered, like virtually cluttered on your phone. And I remember you were saying that you're like, it's just like literally a job to manage your computer files, your cell phone files, but when you do it, it does give you like a little like clarity, and
It has to be a habit.
it has to. You're right. It's because it's ongoing.
Otherwise, you wind up with 1,000 emails, and now you're overwhelmed completely.
Well, I have to laugh because, and I feel like this goes for everyone in my family except for myself. Like, I can't see like a notification on my phone. So if it says like, unread email message, I'll just look, and then I'll just quit. And most of my emails are like just junk emails, or, clothing subscriptions or online thing. It's God only knows what it is. But I have to always just get up. But then I laugh because some of my family members will have like thousands, like it'll say like 2,000 something. And I'm like, how are you just staring at this all day long with this notification that says you have all these messages? So
Do
it's
you ever
it's
set up
interesting.
filters?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Like
Yes.
if you get one from
Yes.
Kohl's, we'll use a
Right.
retailer. You can have a filter that says, okay, Kohl's goes into promotion.
Right.
And maybe I'm going to look, and maybe I'm not buying anything, so I'm just going to delete the 400 promotion in one.
Well, and on
shot.
top of that, I mean, there's so many text messages I get from companies because, it'll say like, if you're wanting, subscribe here and you'll get, 10% off. So it's like, sure, of course. So like throughout the day, I just get like swarms of just, and then I'm just, I try to opt out, but then you could be me who say, well, I don't know, I might like still like want to use it, so it's always like.
But if text messages are a little different, I don't think you can filter them.
No, you can just only opt in or opt out, with like, it'll say like if it's Kohl's, for example, whatever it is, if you don't want to get that. But sometimes I like a little reminder because I'm like, okay, you know what?
Yeah, but not every day.
No, certainly not every day.
From everybody.
Yeah, it's a lot. But that's my point. The amount of text messages I can accrue in just a conversation with my mom, is excessive. So it's something that you really need to, as you said, make it a habit to kind of clear out, because it does get like, there are moments that I just feel like everything is just like cluttered internally. So
do you use the star system at all? Did you get a lot of them? Like what I do is I use Gmail. So on Gmail, if this is one that I want to do something with, but I don't have time right now, I'm just screening through, I will give a red star to the ones that I really have to do something with.
Yes.
Green is I'll do something, but
look, I don't. If you're just so organized, even in this
yellow
situation.
is strictly information, and then maybe once every couple of days, I'll go through the starred ones and do the red. And clean them out.
I like it. It's like you created like little like donation kind of box concept in your email inbox. It's like you're shredding piles, Otto. It's like, like this shred now.
I mean, my brain works like that. I can't help it.
But that's a wonderful thing, and I think that's what makes you who you are, and your outlook and health and activeness. It's all
well, it helped me in business. That much I do know. I mean, looking back on it, in my sales
no,
world.
and it's hard because some people, as I said, in my own family would be a perfect example of some people who are extremely organized and some people like not so much, so it's really an interesting thing. And of course the person, each person looks the other person like they're crazy.
Well, I think what it does is this is an opinion, this is all conversation, is that if you have the desire to be organized and plan, you focus more on what you think is important, whatever that may be. You've got the right to pick whatever you want, whatever your goals are.
Yeah.
You can focus better if you keep thinking about that.
And if you cross something off that list, it's just a real good feeling to do. So
it is.
It's just something that I will never lose. And it has to, there's something about that hard copy list, that you really.
Do you hear a lawn died, by the way?
I did hear that. But, I like they waited for the end of the show. It's just wonderful timing to send us off.
Perfect.
And we have reached the end of our show. Thank you, Otto, for sharing all this great information with me. And of course, Dan Cox from WCWP, who is our very own Wizard of Oz. We had a great show. Come back next week. This is Project Independence in You, Community Talk Radio, here on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. And have a wonderful weekend.